I never knew that I had kids. I'm pleasantly surprised that I have kids. I love the fact that when I'm on stage and I'm actually engaging with the crowd, it gives me the best high. अगर आप जिंदगी में कुछ ना करें, so you should always keep the fire burning and should always keep the
So you
spirit
think
alive.
you have a purpose in life, and you're delivering on that.
When I entered the industry, I'll tell you what, I think perhaps, and I'm not saying it because she's my boss, but I actually mean it. It really matters when you have a female management.
Again, you mentioned this very rightly, and I also read your article. Saira Aga wrote it.
From Daily Times.
Yes.
I suppose my space on it. If not, leave it.
Okay.
It's not worth it. So, continuing with this, I feel that women do have a lot of issues that they face in the society. So, these are some of the things we have to face every day in our lives. And then there's harassment also. And then we have to feel space. We have to feel safe in certain spaces.
You were lucky that you had a female manager. But again, if men are, I'm not saying that, all male managers are harassers, or all male managers are bad.
No, of course
but again,
not.
They would not be able to connect with the challenges that the opposite gender face.
If you are not being truly valued, if you are not given your true worth at the place that you work at, you should leave. कि ख़वातीन को वो तनख्वाहें नहीं मिलती जो मर्द हज़रात को मिलती हैं.
So there's a notion that it's easier for women because, again, as you said, opportunities here and there. But now there's a notion, men say that it's easier for women because of many reasons.
Right. It's because I'd like to believe I come up with quality content. I'd like to believe that the feedback that I receive is good enough. क्या वो सबसे पहले ये बोलेंगे financial independence,
exactly,
which is very true. तो financially independent तो already rural ख़वातीन है ना, उनको उनकी worth नहीं मिलती जिसके ऊपर हमें काम करना है.
Hello and welcome to The Correspondent. This is your host Faraz, Saeed, and I'm back with another episode of our podcast series. आज I have with me Sophiya Anjum, aka RJ Sophie. लाहौर के अंदर बहुत मशहूर है, पूरे पाकिस्तान के अंदर मशहूर है, गुफ्तगू बहुत अच्छी करती हैं. लेकिन आज हम उनसे बात करेंगे Womenomics के ऊपर. Thank you so much, Sophiya, for giving us time from your busy schedule. I know you're very busy. आपको बहुत सारे invites होते हैं. उस invite में से आपने हमारा एक invite accept किया. So thank you so much.
Well, it's my absolute pleasure. सबसे पहले तो you make me sound as if I'm such a busy person. मैं खुद थोड़ी देर के लिए परेशान होगी. हाँ, I must be really busy then. But it was worth it. So thank you for having me.
आज हमारा जो topic है, it's on Womenomics, ठीक है? So we don't talk about Womenomics. We talk about economy. We talk about how men are leading our lives in our country, but we never talk about how women are leading from the front and the challenges that they face. And I thought that you are the perfect person because, again, you are in the industry for past 16 years and have done wonders.
Thank you.
Again, पहले हम start करेंगे कि how is media, because you've been part of media for the last 16 years, FM 91. And people love your show. People love your voice. People connect with your voice.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
So how has media industry changed so far for women as they work in this industry?
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to say one thing that, they say that behind the success of every man, there is a woman. And I do believe that behind the success of every woman, it is herself. Okay, and it's very important for us to understand that regardless of what the media says, regardless of what has been conditioned in your mind, regardless of what people say around you, you have to truly understand your worth. And your worth is that your superpower is being a woman. Because being a woman here in our part of the world means for us that you have to have so many stereotypes, okay, and so many hardships that follow. And then, आप ये समझें कि जिस तरह मर्द और ख़वातीन, अगर हम दो ठीक है इकट्ठे एक रेस में जा रहे हैं और हमने एक डेस्टिनेशन पे इकट्ठे पहुंचना है तो आप ये समझें कि हमारे पास भार कुछ ज्यादा है, which means that we might have a backpack which is full of stones, right, or a backpack full of rocks for that matter, that slows us down in the process because we have a lot of load. So that is why it takes us slightly more longer to reach the destination because we have a lot of hardships and a lot of thorns to cross. Having said that, coming back to the media side, I think that When I started, although I sound ancient because I started like 15, 16 years ago,
Yeah.
but hey, I started young, okay,
Yeah.
just to let you know. So when I started, the media was booming, right? You had all kinds of radio stations, you had all kinds of music stations
Yeah.
on TV. We used to love watching those VJs talking about Pakistani music, and everything was super cool, and people could relate to those artists as well.
Yeah.
आपको याद है रेडियो पाकिस्तान का जमाना? रेडियो पाकिस्तान का ज़माना वो था जिसके अंदर जो आपके एक जो रेडियो एंकर थे, वो थे एक पेडेस्टल के ऊपर, एंड although they were superstars और उनका अपना ऑरा था, but relatability factor नहीं था because we couldn't relate to them.
Yeah.
Right? So the RJs these days are very relatable. Because when they talk about their stories, we feel, hey, you know what? This is something I can relate to because I've been through something similar. So I think the media has changed in a way that the anchors and the artists and the radio personalities and the hosts have somehow become relatable.
Yeah.
And I think with the advent of the social media, with Instagram and with Facebook and Twitter, and now, you have TikTok and you have LinkedIn as well, I think that you are connected more to the world. So, it's become a very connected space for people. That is how the media is, I think, in a way, changed and evolved, and in a way exposed people too. So you have to know where to draw the line.
So there are less gateways now, because previously, jaise aapne bataya ki, there were pedestals in their own selves, because again, there were very few people who were entering media, because again, everybody wanted to enter media, but there was an editorial check, gateways, and getting into a studio and becoming an RJ was a big thing. Aaj, everybody have mics, okay? We have been recording.
Really? Everybody does, huh? Everybody wants to start their own podcast.
And there's no editorial check. You don't have a background. You don't know. You don't have anything to say. But you're opening up your own thing, and we have TikTok, we have Snack Video, we have all these platforms where everybody is making content.
Sure.
How has that changed? Because again, do you think it's equally hard enough? Because again, pehle it was very difficult to enter the industry and make your mark, like you did. Is it easier now, or has it become more difficult?
Interesting question. Faraz, I'll tell you something. It's very easy to get to the top. I mean, you do something which is very frivolous and silly, or something which is very controversial, and you know what? You'll be making headlines the next day, and you'll be trending. Or you do something which is absolutely insane, but then how are you going to maintain it? That is the main question, right? Sustainability of your stardom, of your fame, or of your success. How are you going to maintain it, right? So when I entered the industry, I'll tell you what, I think perhaps, and I'm not saying it because she's my boss, but I actually mean it. It really matters when you have a female management. Right? Because they always have your back when you go through the certain things in life. This is what I've experienced. They really taught me कि मैंने किस तरह अपने inhibitions को छोड़ के आगे जाना है. And for me, clearing this table up, सफाई करना और जाके शालीमार बाग में जाके random लोगों से interview करना, it's not such a big deal. She really taught me how to leave my ego home, okay, and go forward and mingle with all kinds of people. So हमें जो training मिलती थी वो थी pronunciation, diction, clarity, and to do our research. It's very easy to start your own podcast or to do your own content creation because no check and balance. There is no boss dangling on your head telling you to do this, not to do this. I think
and producer bugging you in the air.
Yes. So I think it's very important for you to understand कि अगर तो if you've done your education in a certain field, तो ये बहुत अच्छी बात है. You can cushion your education forward. जिस तरह मैंने masters किया हुआ है mass communication में, और मैंने फिर internships और training programs किए थे. So that helped me. If you do not have that qualification, that's okay because you still have that talent. So how do you utilize your talent? By understanding that where does your sound fit as an RJ? For example, when you tune into 89, what do you hear? What do you hear? You hear English music. When you tune into 91, what do you hear? You hear English music and Pakistani music. What do you listen to when you tune into, say, 106.2? You listen to all kinds of desi music. So you have to understand where your strengths lie and then apply to the radio station accordingly. So you have to understand really what you truly want.
Okay.
Not everyone can do everything.
They can't. Again, you've mentioned this very rightly, and I also read your article. Saira Aga wrote it.
Hanji, Daily Times.
Yes. you mentioned consistency, and
Yes.
I really connected with it because again, there are very overnight celebrities that are growing up in our industry, in
Right.
our in our society. But again, you said something really different. Consistency. How can you manage that fame?
Yes.
Because again, if you it will wear off
Yeah.
overnight, and
Yeah.
continuing for 16 years
Mhm.
is a big thing.
Mhm.
So again, womenomics. How hard is it for women to sustain in any industry per se?
Mm.
But because you are from media industry, how
Yes.
hard it is for women to, again, because you said your boss was there, a
Yes.
female manager.
Mhm.
So a female manager supporting their female employees or
Mm.
subordinates.
Mm.
But if there is a male manager,
Mm.
do you think women would feel equally supportive or pushed to the highest pedestal?
Mm.
What is there that is lacking,
Mm.
and what are the challenges?
Okay, you've asked me a very tricky question,
Mhm.
right? It's a slippery slope right
Yeah.
there, because I feel that it doesn't really come down to the fact that what your gender is, but how you are as a human being.
Mhm.
But as a woman, you expect the other woman to understand your hardships
Yeah.
and the challenges that you face in the same industry.
Yeah.
Hence, there's a factor of relatability,
Mhm.
right? So, for example, if I've given 16 years to this industry and I have a junior
Mhm.
who comes up to me with somehow a similar challenge that I might have faced 10 years ago, I would be in a better position to help her and guide her rather than somebody who can't relate to what she's going through. You understand? So that is where the relatability factor comes in. But then again, there are all kinds of people in the world. Right? You have female bosses who are really, really tough, and then you have male bosses who are really, really very good. So I was lucky enough to have a fantastic female boss, but then again, there are many fantastic male bosses as well. Having said that, I think that it can be easy for you and it can be difficult for you as a woman because it truly depends on you. You know, this is something of a conversation that we were having before we
Yeah.
started our podcast. And, अक्सर ऐसी बातें होती हैं जो मैं एक कान से सुन के दूसरे कान से निकाल देती हूँ. Because I feel that we really need to pick and choose the battles we face in our life.
Yes.
You don't have to fight every battle. It's not worth it. So before you pick a fight or before you feel, hey, you need to instantly react to this, is it going to be important after 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? Or is it going to be worth enough that I spend my time, my energy, and my, I suppose, my space on it? If not, leave it.
Okay.
It's not worth it. So, continuing
of
with
course.
this, I feel that women do have a lot of issues that they face in the society because अच्छा अब इसकी शादी हो जाएगी तो ये pregnant हो जाएगी तो जब बच्चे हो जाएंगे तो ये काम कैसे करेगी or oh she's going through something, is she PMSing?
Yeah.
Or she's going through something, maybe there are hormonal changes.
Yeah.
Or अच्छा अब तो 9 बज गए 10 बन गए इसको तो इजाजत नहीं मिलेगी. Or maybe she's looking pretty because she wants to impress a client. So these are some of the things we have to face every day in our lives. And then there's harassment also.
Of course.
And then we have to feel space. We have to feel safe in certain spaces in our community. So having said that, I still feel that it comes down to how you handle yourself. And for that, you have to be emotionally intelligent. And for that, you have to have a peace of mind and you have to breathe. Again, you don't have to react to everything. You have to understand what you truly want. And this is the battle you want to fight or not.
Okay. So, again, we have very few female managers in our top organizations.
Yeah.
You were lucky that you had a female manager, but again, if men are, I'm not saying that all male managers are harassers or all male managers are bad.
No, of course
but again,
not.
they would not be able to connect with the challenges that the opposite gender face. For instance, a male manager would not face the challenges of being stared at, or there are female hygiene issues that
Sure.
that women face and men don't,
Right.
and they can't connect with it. And then again, the female employees are not paid equally because again, it has been an issue. Women suffragette was fought on this thing.
Right.
Today, women are still not paid as equal as men or their male peers because they are thought that they're not contributing enough, or maybe they have children to go home. And men again are the breadwinners again, because again we are conditioned in a way that men are the only ones who are the breadwinners. But today, when women step out, then when a female gets into a workspace,
Right.
she's obviously a breadwinner for her house, for her children. Why do we still have the challenge, or how do we address this issue, female pay gap, and then the challenges, because again few female are in on the table.
Right.
So how do we steer
Right.
away from that
Okay,
challenge?
so you have to understand one thing that is there, okay, and it's not just in our part of the world,
Yeah.
but it is on the global platform
Yeah.
as well. And that is why a lot of actresses abroad also, and a lot of female activists, basically, they did protest against the fact that, we are being paid less for
Yeah.
the same amount of work that our male counterparts are doing. Why? Right? So there is a gender disparity over there. So that was already addressed in the West. Now let's come to our part of the world. You know what? I think that the discourse has started, and it's been a few years that people have been talking about this, right? But I also feel that you truly have to understand that without gender in between, you have to understand what your worth is. If you are not being truly valued, if you're not given your true worth at the place that you work at, you should leave.
Okay, but we have less opportunities.
No, I'll tell you. You should leave, or you should create a niche for yourself and create that environment that you tell them, hey, you know what? I have been a loyal employee in your organization or your company for many years. I'm talking about, see, there are different stratas of the society for us. I can't speak for all stratas of the society, but I can speak on behalf of myself. And perhaps from some of the women who belong to the media industry, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, so say my social circle and my industry, okay, and most of them, not all of them. So I can clearly tell you that we have a lot of opportunities. We can switch radio stations, we can switch TV stations, we can switch newspapers, we can do our own hosting any way we can, because we are more or less slightly more empowered than others.
Yeah.
Yes, so we might have more opportunities. So for that, I would say, if you are truly not given your worth, then leave. And if you feel that you are given enough, then value that organization and prove your worth. Because sometimes we feel that that person is been given more importance because that person is your male counterpart.
Yeah.
But perhaps it's because he's better than you, or perhaps he's had more experience than you. So you really have to understand your true worth first, rather than making hasty decisions. So I think you need to be a more balanced person that way professionally before you take a step further. But when it comes to holistically speaking, our pay scales for men and women in all stratas of the society, then I would definitely say कि ख़वातीन को वो तनख्वाहें नहीं मिलती जो मर्द हज़रात को मिलती हैं. Or this comes down to the basics that women don't say anything because they feel that they would get thrown out of their organizations. And they would not have other opportunities because they feel scared of taking a decision which is risky. Already they are facing a lot in their houses, that when they go out of their houses, they feel कि अगर यहाँ पे भी उन्होंने कोई risk ले लिया तो घर में भी problem होगी, बाहर में भी problem होगी. So I think they're scared, which is why they don't take a lot of decisions. But is that fair?
It's unfair.
It's unfair.
Yeah.
So what happens is that when people in positions of power talk about it or they start a discourse, eventually you have laws. Laws make policies, and obviously, they are being executed the same way. And then you start movements as well. And then you have people who are, I would say, they're beacons of hope for such women.
Yeah.
So that is why it's very important to at least start a conversation and take the movement forward. Yes.
Since we're having a conversation and discourse has already begun, empowered woman is a notion that even men are accepting and men are talking about
Yes.
it. When it comes to workspace, and do you think that so there's a notion in the workspace, because we're talking about and we're trying to understand, of course we can't come to a radical conclusion, this is womenomics. So we're just trying to gauge in a conversation. So there's a notion that it's easier for women because, again, as you said, opportunities here and there. But now there's a notion, men say that it's easier for women because of many reasons.
Right.
What do you have to say about that?
After 16 years of my experience in the media industry, I've just come to one conclusion. And the conclusion is that now I feel, after my experience, your gender really doesn't have anything to do with your work. You have to be a thorough professional, regardless of your gender.
Okay.
So for instance, say that my radio show has been running successfully for 16 years and I still have the evening drive time slot, which is the main prime slot at a popular radio station. Why is that? is because I'd like to believe I come up with quality content. I'd like to believe that the feedback that I receive is good enough. Because if I was bad at my work, regardless of the fact that I'm a woman or I'm a man, I wouldn't be there in the first place. So I think it just boils down to the fact that as a professional, you keep your gender aside and then you start working consistently and concentrate on your work. However, I do feel that as a woman, again, you have certain kind of superpowers, right? And the superpowers are that, are emotionally very intelligent. Ooh, the light is gone. Do we continue with this? Okay. So I feel as a woman, you are very emotionally intelligent. And I feel that more or less women are more good with confrontation and also with dealing with their emotions.
Okay.
So I feel that is where they are a step ahead of men. I'm not saying all men, but I'm saying most men. Because you see, when men, they try to numb their feelings, they opt for either staying quiet or they opt for certain things that I might not say here, but you get what I'm saying. So that at least they're numb, they don't have to face their feelings because mard bano और लड़के रोते नहीं हैं और लड़के जो हैं वो soft नहीं होते. So I think that is where women have an edge.
Okay.
So I do feel, again, it just comes down to the fact that you have to be good at your job.
Okay.
Right? And I would like to mention a few of my colleagues here. Dino Ali, Wes Malik, Khalid Malik, Fiza Aslam, FM 89 and FM 91. They have been there for ages, all of us. Why? Because all of us have been very consistent. We're women and we're men. That has nothing to do with the gender. It has everything to do with our work, our quality, and our consistency.
But you see, again, we live in Lahore. We live in an urban society. Again, and we do work. You specifically work in a radio station, and there's a particular kind of niche that you cater to, and then you work in that particular kind of niche, and it's very hard for people to have that kind of talent. And again, there are workspaces where talent is accepted, but then we have people from not urban populations, ठीक है, जहाँ उनको opportunities नहीं मिलती हैं, जहाँ अभी भी जो हमारी again 30% of our population is urbanized, 70% is still live in villages, और उन इलाकों के अंदर opportunities are not the same. Men are still the breadwinners, although women work equally hard. खेतों के अंदर वो भी काम करती हैं, but again men have this some kind of superiority over women.
Right.
What do you have to say about those women जो के निकलती हैं घर से, startups कर रही हैं छोटे मोटे, जो सिलाई करके अपने घर के लिए काम कर रही हैं? What about them? They're not getting the right kind of opportunities. They can't step outside. उनको वही opportunities मिल रही हैं जो घर में बैठ के करनी चाहिए. But men are stepping outside. What do you have to say about them?
It's a very interesting question. And I think that that is where digital literacy comes in. And I feel that many corporate brands and many companies are doing a lot. For instance, am I allowed to mention a few brand names?
Yes, why not?
Okay. So Samsung basically did a collaboration. There's this organization called Carvan Cross Foundation. I don't know if you know about them or not. वो क्या करते हैं कि जो ये marginalized communities में या जो underprivileged घरानों से ताल्लुक रखती खवातीन, उनके लिए वो laptops या desktops या mobile phones फराहम करते हैं. So what they essentially do is that they start their own website. For example, if I am sitting in a village or a small town, let's say, and I'm very talented, मुझे सिलाई कढ़ाई सब आता है, but मेरे पास resources नहीं हैं. So big companies, what they're doing now, along with organizations and certain NGOs like Carvan Cross Foundation and others as well, even अगर आप देखें पूरे पाकिस्तान में ऐसे एनजीओज हैं जो खवातीन के लिए स्पेसिफिकली काम करते हैं. They give them the means to make their own website, to go online and through e-commerce earn. Okay. So for instance, if I'm a woman, again, that I have a lot of talent, but I don't have the resources, now I do, because a lot of NGOs and a lot of organizations have reached out to me, and I reached out to them because it all comes down to the fact कि आप मेहनत करें. देखिए जी, बात सिर्फ ये है कि हम हमेशा ये सोचते हैं गवर्नमेंट कुछ करेगी तो फिर हम आगे चलेंगे. ठीक है जी, कोई हमारे लिए कुछ करेगा तो हम आगे करेंगे. ठीक है, देखिए हर एक की जिंदगी में प्रॉब्लम्स होते हैं. You have problems in your life, I have problems in my life, right? I'm sure the intensity varies, but there are still problems that we face. You have to work hard. You have to get out of your comfort zones and make the first decision and take the first step.
Okay.
Where the NGOs comes in, I mean, it's very good that the NGOs are doing this, organizations are doing this,
Mhm.
but I also feel that ये जो आपने बात की है ना गांव की, आपको पता है कि पाकिस्तान में majority of the rural villages, ठीक है, have women who are the breadwinners because they are the ones who are earning.
Yeah.
And their men just sit at home and just, eat. They do all the housework, they do all the major work, and yet they are not given the due respect because of our conditioning in the society. So that is not something that only the government is liable for. That is something that we as a society really need to think कि हम कहाँ पर जा रहे हैं. Now that comes down to 2-3 basic factors: education and tarbiyat, right? Talim और tarbiyat जो हम बचपन से पढ़ते आ रहे हैं. So we really have to make a lot of amends, and it's going to take us, I would say, decades for us. Not just years. So I think the momentum is slowly starting.
Yeah.
The change is starting to come. The new generation is way more empowered and way more aware rather than the generation that was previously there. For example, your parents, my parents.
Yeah.
Our elder brothers and sisters were of a different viewpoint. You and I are at a very transitional phase in our lives, right? And the generation after us is going to be even more aware.
Yeah.
Because of the social media, because of the world becoming closer, because of technology. So I think that the change is slightly coming, but we have to keep the conversation open.
Going on. Yeah.
Yes, and we have to take the first step.
So what we've identified is that even if we work in our fancy offices, that does not mean that we are the only ones who are empowered. So women working in fancy offices are not the only ones who are empowered.
No.
Women working in households, women working, जो सिलाई कढ़ाई करी है, जो खेतों में काम करी है, those women are equally empowered. Even the housewives are equally empowered because again, she's running the household.
Right.
We just don't identify their empowerment, that they are also the powerful women.
Because they don't realize their own worth because they're not given the due respect.
Exactly.
क्योंकि essentially speaking, जब आप किसी से पूछते हैं कि empowerment की definition क्या है, वो सबसे पहले ये बोलेंगे financial independence.
Exactly.
Which is very true. तो financially independent तो already rural खवातीन है ना. उनको उनकी worth नहीं मिलती जिसके ऊपर हमें काम करना है.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल ऐसे ही है. ठीक है. अब again we're running short of time, but again I want to talk about the RJ Sophie.
Yes, sure.
Okay. So you're not just an RJ, you're also the marketing head of FM 91, and you're a lot of other things, and then you are also hosting every other event. I go to every event in Lahore, and you are there hosting the event. So that's a lot of money.
Can't get rid of me.
But how is that? How do you light so bright? The energy, the consistency, and again the willpower.
Yes.
Show bhi hai. Marketing bhi karni hai, and then hosting bhi karni hai, but then socializing bhi karni hai. How do you manage everything?
So,
and you also have kids.
I do.
Yeah.
What kind of kids?
आप बताएंगे?
Acha, I do. So I never knew that I had kids. I'm pleasantly surprised that I have kids. I would say that my followers and my fans are definitely my kids. Okay, so I'll tell you basically just a little bit of a correction though. I was the marketing head, so I did that for a few years. But now I'm just an RJ at the station. But I'm also the Lahore lead.
Yeah.
Right. FM 91 was a stepping stone for me, and it was the most incredible experience for us. I had a ball of a time at 91. Wherever I am in the world today, I owe it all to 91. Having said that, as a kid, I was always a doer and a go-getter.
Yeah.
And I knew from day one that this is what I wanted to do because I loved the mic.
Yeah.
I loved communication. I loved the limelight as a kid. And you know what I started doing? I started young. Even in school and college and university, I was always present at all the debates and all the extracurricular activities. And on the stage, the mic was my best friend. So I started working on it by making a conscious effort. So I started with radio, then I started TV. I did a TV program with PTV World and PTV Home, and then TV One as well. And then I started hosting, जहाँ पे आप मुझे अक्सर देखते हैं और आप कहते हैं फिर आ गई वहाँ पर. But I love the fact that when I'm on stage and I'm actually engaging with the crowd, it gives me the best high. Right? I love interacting with all kinds of people and culture and traditions, and I host nationally and internationally. Yeah. I have my own studio space called the S Studio, which is where I design podcasts for people. So maybe next time we should come to my place and host a podcast over there.
Why not?
So, so essentially that is what I do. But a big chunk of my life is dedicated to social work. So that is where I represent Shaukat Khanum Hospital and TCF for Education, and also WWF.
Hence the kids.
Hence the
Now you
kids.
know.
Now I know.
Yeah.
So yes, essentially, I think that I love having responsibilities on my
Yeah.
shoulders. And I love multitasking.
Mhm.
I think women are good with
Mhm.
multitasking. So I have this quotation which is keep the spirit alive.
Mhm.
फायदा क्या है
Mhm.
अगर आप जिंदगी में कुछ ना करें?
Mhm.
So you should always keep the fire burning
Mhm.
and should always keep the
So you
spirit
think you
alive.
have a purpose in life, and
Yes.
you're delivering on that. So
Yes.
one last message for our female audience
Hmm.
who face challenges in their office work, or when they're stepping outside. There are multiple challenges,
Yeah.
but how to address them? What your advice to all the young women, or
Sure.
not just young women, every woman who are in working?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so very much for having me again. It was an absolute pleasure. I wish you all the very best. I've seen your podcasts earlier. You're doing a great job. So
Thank you.
keep it going. And I
Thank you.
want to admire your team as well, especially the one person, the one man army behind this all. I really
Yeah.
like to plug in a shout out for him. Thank you for everything.
Yeah, that's awesome, bhai.
That's awesome, bhai. Thank you so very much. So, मेरा message होगा for men, women, and everyone who's listening in. And I would just like to say that this is something which I firmly believe in. आपको तो रट चुका होगा because आपने काफी पढ़ा है इस बारे में. Consistency is key.
Yeah.
Right? So if you start something, start it only when you feel that you would be able to carry it forward. Don't just do it because you feel it's trending. Don't just do it because you feel you are bored. Or don't just go on a rebound and start something because you feel, hey, you know what, it'll help me pass time. Do it with your full heart and soul. Be consistent and pick your battles wisely because life will always have ups and downs. There will be challenges. People will pull you down. You will have good days and you will have bad days. You will have your boss shout at you. Don't make it an ego issue. You will have your subordinates disrespect you. Don't keep it an ego issue. Yes, there are certain boundaries that must not be crossed. But एक कान से सुन के दूसरे कान से निकाल लें. So be wise and also look at the future and look at what you have to achieve, which is your destination and your goal. The obstacles you will face will make the journey memorable.
Yeah.
So be consistent and reach your destination.
Thank you so much. And on that very insightful, thought provoking conversation, we'll conclude our conversation.
Yes.
And till then, until next time, when we'll be able to get another similarly, thought provoking, intellectual conversation, मुझे इजाजत दीजिए. Allah Hafiz.